Many people thought Seattle was going to come in last place. Well, look who's in last place now. Let's talk football. All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the All Around Sports Podcast, where sports are everything on this channel. I'm your host, Antonio, and you already know what we're talking about. We're talking about the San Francisco 49ers that were the favorite to go to the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year and the division favorite at the beginning of the year. And now they're in last place of the division.
Such irony!
I'm sorry, I just had to get that laugh off my chest. Many people thought that the Seattle Seahawks, with the first year head coach, would finish last place in the division. But who would have thought that it was the San Francisco 49ers? I'm just having my moment, all right? Y'all can talk all you want, but I don't care because y'all came in last place. But mainly, the question on this channel is, was the 49ers season a failure? Which we all know the question to this one. But I'm going to talk about this here in just a second. Before we get started, if you all do enjoy this video, please be sure to do me a favor and smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. For now, let's talk about the last place 49ers. Starting off, oh man, that is just so good to say. I mean, it was so good to say just to begin with. But anyways, we all know this. If you don't win a championship, your season is a failure, especially when your team is called the San Francisco 49ers, five-time Super Bowl champions that have not won a Super Bowl since Steve Young was your quarterback. And I'm going to get into some of this here in just a second. But starting off with Brock Purdy, this man does not deserve an extension because, number one, he cannot perform without weapons. We see Kansas City performing without weapons. We see the Seattle Seahawks performing without weapons. And you see Josh Allen performing without weapons. And here's the funny thing. The Seahawks were without Kanan in the last game of the season and the last stretch. They won 2 straight. You need to start doing that, San Francisco. But that's number one. Number two, you need to show up when your team needs you the most. You have gone 1-5 against the entire division. And you should have at least finished in third place, if I were to say. You should have at least finished in third and avoid the hilariousness and mediocrity of last place. This 49ers team is just so funny. It is so funny. They find ways to win with their weapons, but then for some weird reason, without their weapons, they can't seem to get the job done. I'm sick. I don't want to hear a single 49ers excuse because y'all earned last place. Y'all earned it. Because number one, you can't perform when your injuries are mounting, even when you had some of your guys who couldn't beat the Lions. That's number one. Number two, you know this. Your schedule was relatively easy. You should have made the playoffs. But what did you do? Purdy and Shanahan choked away the lead once again. They're the team with since 2000 with 3 division losses and also they lead by 4 or more points going into the fourth quarter of each of those losses. This team has to stop making excuses. You need to finish it. And I'm talking right to you, Brock Purdy, because you're Mr. Irrelevant. You're the last pick of an NFL draft. I know he made the Super Bowl, but you need to show up when your weapons are down. We see Patrick Mahomes do it all the time, and yet he has 3 Super Bowl championships to show for it. Josh Allen, he missed Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. Look at the year he's having. He doesn't have a Super Bowl yet. Then you look at Houston, they were able to perform without Nico Collins. And also along with Tank Dell. And then also the Lions, even though they were banged up, they still won. And more importantly, the Seahawks still won despite their injuries. And they're 10-7. Also the first time the Seahawks first year head coach has gone on a 10-win season. Just want to throw that out there. But anyways, my point is you need to find a way to show up despite your weapons being hurt. We see Detroit doing it all the time, and they have a big game tonight as I'm currently making this against the Minnesota Vikings. You could have been in that position if you looked like Detroit. You could have been in that position, but you don't know how to win when your weapons are out. I've constantly said this on a variety of occasions. Number one, if your players are hurt, you don't find a way to show up. Number two, and I've said this, this is my first time saying this public. Just stay calm. No matter how stacked the roster of San Francisco is, no matter how injury ridden they are, which they should have won when they're injured, no matter how good they might look, despite their roster being as stacked as it is, don't lose it. No matter how hard it gets, whenever it comes to the big games, the 49ers, no matter what, will always find a way to choke. And what happened for the last few years? Allow me to count the ways. In Super Bowl 54, you choke away a 10-point lead when you have 10 minutes to go in the ball game, which you should have won that championship. And now you created the legend known as Patrick Mahomes. And a few years before, and then a few years later, they went and faced Philly. LA. And you lost a 10-point lead there. Then the Rams went on to win the Super Bowl that year. Then, in the following year, Brock Purdy gets injured and they get hurt. And then they get knocked out. Then last year, this is the most frustrating thing to me. You have one of the most stacked, most decked, most talented rosters in NFL history. You had Chase Young. You had Nick Bosa. You had a Fred Warner. You had a Dre Greenlaw. You had everything you needed. And especially on the offensive side where you had Kittle, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, and also along with Jawan Jennings, and also along with CMC. And yet you still couldn't get it done. This is the thing that frustrates me the most. We saw with Jim Harbaugh, he's when he was the 49ers head coach, he's making a playoff appearance with the Chargers, which is probably a sour note for y'all 49er fans. Just wanted to throw that out there. But my final and last point is this. Kyle Shanahan is the biggest choker in NFL history. He can have the most stacked roster that you could ever ask for. He can have everything you need. Number one offense, a number one defense. And even though it wasn't that, we all know, y'all should know this. Kyle Shanahan can't get it done. And he will never, in a million years, win a championship with the 49ers or anybody else. And if he does, I'll make a video on my apology to the 49er fans if it is with them, or to the Kyle Shanahan fans if it's not, which I'm thinking he might get fired. 49ers, this is my last thing to you. Y'all gotta stop making excuses. You made excuses when Dre Greenlaw went out in the Super Bowl, which I respect. Then you make an excuse this season where you have so many injuries. They still could have won ball games. They could have beaten the Cardinals. We swept them, by the way. You could have beaten the Rams, which you didn't even put up a single touchdown. And you made Geno Smith look like primetime Michael Vick in that game in week 11. You have to stop making excuses. You need to stop because I've constantly heard from 49er fans this season, oh, we've got so many injuries. Oh, we're so banged up. Well, what happened when you win against the Lions? You have a George Kittle. You have a Deebo Samuel. And you have Ricky Pearsall, which he actually looked relatively decent that game. You could have won the game. You could have won it. But yet again, we have seen this time and time again. Kyle Shanahan's second half play calling is terrible. He was running the ball in the whole first half of that football game against the Lions. And then he started to pass the ball, something I'm very familiar with as a Seahawks fan. But y'all gotta stop making excuses. I'm so sick and tired of y'all making excuses. I get that you're going through so many injuries. I get that you were the most stacked roster last year and you get choked this year. I get that Brock Purdy didn't have his weapons. I get all that. All that I'm saying is we look at a Kansas City, we look at a Buffalo Bills, and other teams around the NFL that are able to perform with injuries. Why can't you? Why can't you perform with injuries? We see the Detroit Lions right now, as I'm currently making this, in contention for the number one seed, despite all of their injuries. Y'all gotta learn, one way or another, perform with your injuries. You gotta find a way to win with your injuries. If you can do that, maybe you might win a championship. But Kyle Shanahan's not ultimately going to because Kyle Shanahan's proven that he's the biggest choker in the NFL. And that is my final point. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you guys think the 49ers season is failure? And I better not hear any excuses. But I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to do me a favor and smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Till next time, I'll see you all in the next one. Ciao for now.